I, 25M, grew up in a pretty tight-knit family. I have a brother, 24M, and sister, 22F, and was very close to my parents, 52M, 50F, spending every holiday there most weekends during college. We grew up on the suburbs of Minneapolis and all went to the University of Minnesota. A year ago, if you would have told me where I would be at today, I would have laughed at your pessimism. But here we are. I met Stacy, 24F, during my sophomore year of college, and we dated until I proposed last December. She said yes, and we were planning on getting married next summer and spending our lives in Minnesota. But in April, my life fell apart. I came home early to find my brother in bed with my fiancé. I freaked out and left and kicked her out of our shared apartment. Days later, she came back and said she had fallen in love with my brother over the years and that she was sorry, but was where her heart was. She moved out and I blocked her and my brother. Initially, the rest of my family took my side and banned my brother from family events. I slowly began to heal. I had a work opportunity come up. My boss pulled me in and said that he had suggested I lead the office in Chicago. They are kind of mess and the company wanted someone from headquarters to take over. I couldn't believe it, but I said yes. I never thought I'd leave Minnesota, but thought it was time for a change. This all happened in early November, and the plan was to move after Christmas. My plan was to tell the family at Thanksgiving and then spend Christmas one last time before moving. But of course, my ex and brother had to stick the knife in one last time before they left. When I showed up for Thanksgiving at my parents' house, there were several cars as the whole extended family comes over, so I didn't even notice my brother's car. I entered the house, and the first thing I see is my ex and brother talking with my aunt. I freeze as my aunt calls for my mom to come in. My brother and ex won't look me in the eye. My mom and dad come in, greet me, and ask me to sit down in the living room. I sit away from my brother and ex, but I see the rest of the family, including my sister, sits closer to them. My mom starts explaining that what they did was wrong and terrible, but that she hates that the family is split. She says I need to work toward forgiveness. My ex and brother both started to apologize, but I put my hand up. I turned to my sister and asked her if she agreed. She had tears in her eyes, but nodded. Asked my dad the same question, he said yes pretty firmly. I was alone. I got up and walked out. I heard a couple people yelling after me, but I didn't respond. I drove to a McDonald's, ate a pretty shitty Thanksgiving meal, and went through my options and decided cutting them off was my best bet. I had saved plenty. I didn't need them, and they didn't know where I was moving. I blocked them all on my phone, but it was my parents' plan that I was on, so I turned the phone in the next week and got on my own plan. Doubled my cell bill, but it was worth it to get a new number. I blocked them on social media, and I told my boss that I wanted to move to Chicago early. Talked to the landlord of the apartment I was looking to rent, and he was happy to let me in early. I moved to Chicago on December 15th, and my family had no idea. A few friends knew, and it must have slipped because last night I got an Instagram DM from what I assume is my mom on a new profile asking why I would move without telling them, and that the family missed and loved me, and that I needed to still make time for Christmas. I responded by saying that she only had one son now, and that I was no longer family. I then blocked her new account and locked down my profile and other social media. I've been looking to change my last name as well. I've left that life behind, and I'm excited to see what Chicago has to offer. Update 1: can't believe it's almost Christmas again. I, 26M, had a pretty terrific first year in Chicago. I'm dating a wonderful woman, changed my last name, and outside of one moment, have completely gotten my family out of my life. In January, one of my sister's friends, Jenny, 23F, messaged me wanting to know she was in the city and if I would help her move in and show her around. Now, a smarter guy would probably have been able to figure out what was up, but she is very attractive, and so I thought with something other than my brain. It was the weekend after the New Year, and when I got to her place, I could see my brother and father moving her stuff out of the U-Haul. I stopped, but my mom had been looking out and called out to me. Everyone stopped and stared. I rolled my eyes and walked away. They chased after me and tried to get me to talk to them. My brother and ex were crying, saying they felt terrible. My dad finally grabbed me by the shoulder and turned me around, telling me to stop being an ass. Before I even knew what I was doing, I punched him in the face and kept walking away. Other people in the street stopped and stared, and my family told me I went too far. None of it mattered. I kept walking. Once I was on the L, I messaged Jenny and told her what she did was cruel and to find someone else to show her around. Didn't expect to hear anything else from her. But to my surprise, I woke up 2 days later to a long message from her apologizing and saying she had done it as a favor for my sister. She knew what my brother had done and felt I deserved to live my life how I chose, but that my sister had been insistent, and she felt like maybe she had missed something. She told me that after the punch, they walked back to her apartment and finished moving her in. She said she understands how I feel and thought I might like to hear the aftermath. Apparently, my father and sister really haven't forgiven my brother and think my mom let him back in too soon. My brother and dad got on a nasty fight, and Jenny asked them to leave because they were causing a scene. Jenny begged me to see her again and said she really felt bad and wanted to buy me dinner. I took her up on it. You'd also be naive if you knew Jenny, I promise. And luckily, I am naive. Jenny and I hit it off and have been inseparable ever since. We are meeting heading back to Minnesota so she can introduce us to her family for Christmas. She actually cut off my sister and has promised I won't have to see them at all. It'll be nice to see my high school friends again. Hopefully my family leaves me alone. Update 2. Well, you all were right. I never should have gone back to Minnesota. I'm back in Chicago, single, heartbroken, and seething with anger. Jenny's 23F family seemed to welcome me with open arms. I had a good chat with her dad about Big Ten football. His mom wanted to know what I did for work, and how her daughter was adjusting to Chicago, and if she was protected. No one mentioned my family, which, looking back, was a huge red flag. We had a great Christmas Eve dinner with the holiday-approved fettuccine alfredo. Christmas morning I got some good presents, and we had a relaxing afternoon. But then, Christmas dinner came. Jenny's mom set out 5 extra chairs and said family friends were coming over. I didn't think much of it until the doorbell rang. And you guessed it, in walk my parents, sister, and the asshole couple themselves. Turns out Christmas was an intervention for me to speak with my family. They came in looking smug. My mom started talking, saying that I needed to forgive and that what they did was wrong, but my actions were unacceptable. My father then chimed in saying that enough is enough and that my punishment was complete. That my brother had done enough to earn the family's forgiveness. I shouldn't have, but I couldn't help myself. What family is that? Your family. I'm not a part of any family. I've changed my last name. I feel nothing for any of you. You chose him over me. That spoke volumes. You changed your last name? I looked over. Stacy had spoken. Just about everyone was shocked into silence. You loved your last name. You always told me it's you connected to your favorite baseball player. Favorite baseball manager, and Billy Martin would have changed his last name too if his family had been the goons you all are. Jenny, find your own way home. I'll get my stuff later. With that, I got up. Everyone was yelling after me, but I didn't care. I got in the rental and drove it straight through to my apartment. Got back at 3 a.m. this morning. No idea how Jenny is going to get home, but fuck her and fuck her whole family. On to the next day, I guess.